In the serene town of Springfield, the chilling tale of Justin Turner begins. A young boy whose laughter once filled the air vanished under mysterious circumstances from his family's camper. Born into a community where every face was familiar, Justin's early adventures in the woods and streets of his neighborhood were tragically cut short. Shock and sorrow gripped the air as the truth of Justin's fate slowly unraveled. Little did anyone know this tragic moment would mark the beginning of a harrowing journey towards uncovering the chilling secrets hidden within the shadows of a seemingly ordinary life. What secrets lie hidden within the quiet streets and backyards of Springfield? As we delve into the twists and turns of this heartbreaking case, join us in uncovering the dark secrets and relentless pursuit of truth that spanned decades, in a story that transforms from a rural idyll to a grim quest for justice. The story of Justin Turner starts in Springfield, a small town where he was raised in a tight-knit family that valued communal ideals and pleasures of a simple life. Justin was known from an early age for his exuberant laugh and inexhaustible curiosity, which made him adored by everyone he met. From playing in the neighborhood streets with friends to exploring the nearby forests, his early years were filled with the experiences of country living. Yet his once promising path took a tragic turn once he abruptly disappeared without a trace, leaving his loved ones and the community desperately trying to find out what happened. On March 3, 1989, in the afternoon, a missing persons report was filed for Justin. At that time, the Turners reported to the police that Justin had boarded the school bus that morning and hadn't been back since. Mr. Turner joined a group of volunteers and policemen on March 5, 1989, to look through the family's property for his missing son. Sadly, Justin's lifeless body was discovered within a cabinet inside his family's small camper. He was found by his father, Victor Lee Turner, whereas his car was parked next to their place. As he stepped out, Victor Lee Turner muttered in a shaky voice, "My son's in there." Turner, 34 at the time, then walked to a wooden deck close by, sat down, placed his head in his hands, and began sobbing. At first, the investigators relied on speaking with witnesses, searching the scene, and gathering physical evidence. They emphasized on deciphering the series of events that preceded Justin's disappearance and inspecting the relationships and interactions among those in his close circle that include his family. Gathering statements from the family members and examining the neighborhood where Justin was reportedly last seen were also part of the initial investigation. Nevertheless, due to the absence of tangible proof, the case couldn't be solved right away. For 3.5 decades, Justin Lee Turner's case remained cold. In 2021, the case was reopened. As stated in the affidavit, the Turner family's story of Justin's disappearance was found to be full of contradictions by the Berkeley County Sheriff's Office Cold Case Unit, which re-examined the autopsy reports and physical evidence gathered at the crime site. Miss Turner maintained that Justin never got off the school bus on that Friday in March 1989, but witnesses testified that they hadn't seen the kid on the bus and that he wasn't even present at school that day. Miss Turner added that she had an argument with Justin before and that she had been in the shower when he stepped outside to catch the bus. The affidavit stated that fibers retrieved from the house were matched to the boy's clothes and the wounds on his neck using forensic technology. There wasn't any debris or anything else on his body, clothes or shoes, indicating that he was carried from the house to the camper, it said. However, on Wednesday, nearly 3 years after detectives had reopened the case, the authorities announced that they formally charged his father and stepmother for his slaying. Victor Lee Turner, then 69, and Megan R. Turner, then 63 years old, were taken into custody on Tuesday from their place of residence in the town of Cross Hill in Lawrence County, South Carolina, where the boy was slain, as per the Berkeley County Sheriff's Office. Berkeley County Sheriff S. Dwayne Lewis stated that additional investigation into the cold case provided a different account regarding Justin's fate. At a heartbreaking press conference on Wednesday, Sheriff Lewis stated, He never got on the bus. He never arrived at school. That's because he had been murdered. And he'd been murdered by his stepmother and his father, and left in a camper behind their house. He went on, I can't think of a more tragic, horrendous murder. He claimed that Justin's neck bore ligature marks, suggesting to the boy's demise from strangulation. Sheriff Dwayne Lewis issued a statement in which he stated, We have dedicated detectives who are committed to reviewing and investigating criminal cases where factors have prevented a timely resolution of justice. These detectives have worked hard to be sure that the life of Justin Lee Turner is remembered and that his murderers are brought to justice. After being apprehended from their Cross Hill, Virginia home, about 160 miles away, Victor and Megan Turner were taken back to Berkeley County. That's where they're being held, at the Hill-Finkley Detention Center. In the heart of Missoula, Montana, a small town nestled amidst rugged landscapes, a bright spark ignited the McGuinness household. Siobhan McGuinness, a spirited child with laughter that could rival the songbirds, brought warmth to even the chilliest of winter mornings. Her childhood was a tapestry of adventures, woven with the threads of curiosity and wonder. From exploring the hidden corners of her neighborhood to chasing dreams as wild as the Montana skies, Siobhan's spirit knew no bounds. But beneath the surface of her idyllic upbringing lay a mystery, a puzzle waiting to be solved. What unseen forces lurked in the shadows, ready to steal away this beacon of joy? Join us as we delve into the untold story of Siobhan McGuinness, a tale of innocence lost and the relentless pursuit of truth. In the early morning hours of February 5, 1974, while on her way to her home, 5-year-old Siobhan McGuinness went missing from her neighborhood in Missoula. Siobhan McGuinness had left a friend's place and was making the short walk home in Missoula, Montana. On that same day, another young girl had reported that a stranger tried to lure her into a shed and assault her, but she managed to escape unharmed. A search was organized by K-9 units and volunteers in an attempt to find McGuinness. Based on the unnamed girl's account, her father, Stephen, drew a face composite of the stranger that portrayed him as a medium-built, Caucasian male about 5 feet 11 inches and between 18 to 20 years old with curly red hair. 2 days later, the body of a 5-year-old girl was discovered in a snow-covered drain culvert close to the exit for Tura on intersection 90, barely outside the city limits. The body was identified as McGuinness and taken to Great Falls for an autopsy. The autopsy revealed that McGuinness had been sexually assaulted, stabbed, and sustained multiple head injuries. A $7,000 in cash reward was put out by the local community for any information that could lead to an arrest in this case. Later on, the police arrested a 15-year-old boy as a person of interest, who's to remain anonymous in the case because he owned a Cadillac with New York license plates, which, according to their suspicion, was driven by the offender. Upon undergoing an assessment with a psychiatric and an interview whilst he was infused with the truth serum, the young boy's alibi was verified, and he was formally cleared of any involvement in the crime. In the early phases of Siobhan McGuinness' case's investigation, detectives applied conventional approaches for the police work. In an effort to piece together the events leading up to the victim's disappearance and eventual slaying, they conducted thorough interrogations of witnesses, including those who knew the victim. In addition, investigators carefully examined physical evidence gathered from the crime site, evaluating every possible lead that could identify the offender. They also thoroughly searched the vicinity of the scene in the hopes of finding any information that could shed light on Siobhan's fate. Despite their best efforts, the absence of reliable leads and conclusive evidence ultimately caused the investigation to become cold. Over the following decades, the McGuinness case gained notoriety in the state as an unsolved homicide. Other local cases, such as the killing of Donna Pounds and the kidnapping and slaying of Susan Yeager, were solved and proven to be unconnected. 2018 saw the identification of the Golden State Killer thanks to genetic genealogy, bringing more attention to the advanced forensic techniques as a means for solving cold cases. In the case of Siobhan McGuinness, genetic genealogy played a crucial part in finally deciphering the puzzle encircling her disappearance and subsequent slaying. In order for genetic genealogy to work, crime scene DNA evidence has to be compared to publicly accessible DNA databases, including those provided by commercial genetic testing organizations like 23andMe and Ancestry DNA. Investigators are able to create family trees and locate possible suspects who may be connected to the unknown DNA profile recovered from the crime scene by searching for genetic matches among the offender's distant relatives. Given that DNA had been preserved in the McGuinness case, the Missoula County Sheriff's Office, Bode Technology, and the FBI approached Othram to create a genetic profile of the suspected offender. Othram is an organization that specializes in forensic genetic genealogy and assists with the analysis of the DNA evidence. Even the smallest or most deteriorated samples, which would have been unsuitable for the standard DNA testing methods, can yield precise DNA profiles thanks to the Othram's use of advanced techniques like forensic-grade genome sequencing. Once Othram had derived a comprehensive DNA profile from the crime scene evidence, their team of forensic genetic genealogists began the laborious process of constructing a family tree using publicly accessible genetic databases and genealogical records. By tracing the familial connections of the DNA match, they were able to pinpoint possible relatives of the offender and narrow down their list of suspects. On October 26, 2020, the perpetrator was officially identified as Richard William Davis, who had passed away from natural causes at his house in Cabot, Arkansas, on August 24, 2012. Davis was 32 years old when the crime was committed. He is believed to have been merely passing through the state. Not long after this announcement, he was named as the main suspect in the 1973 attempted kidnapping of an 8-year-old girl from Bath, New York, as well. Born November 7, 1941, in Gallatin, Pennsylvania, Davis was a native of that town. Throughout his living years, he had never been accused of or charged with any violent crime. At the time of his demise, he was a born-again Christian who resided with his wife in their rural Cabot, Arkansas home. His early 1960s were spent in Pennsylvania, and by the end of the decade, he relocated to a number of cities in South Dakota. He first resided in Bath, New York for some time, before eventually relocating to North Little Rock and then Cabot in the 1980s. He also went by 3 aliases: Dick, Nash, and William Davis. Until his passing, he was a volunteer for the Big Brothers Big Sisters of America program. The identification of McGuinness's killer has provided a sense of closure to the child's family. During a press conference on Monday, Siobhan's father, Stephen McGuinness, said, "We are all relieved with the positive identification of Siobhan's killer, and our prayers go out to his family, hoping that they will have the same sense of closure we have so long awaited." As he spoke, his voice would break, and his daughter Una, half-sister of Siobhan, would comfort him. "It really means the world. My dad never thought that he would see this happen in his lifetime," Una stated. "It's a big deal. It's a really big deal for us, and it's a huge deal for the Missoula community. This affected almost everybody that lived there at that time, and probably still some today." The deceased child was described by Othram as bright and energetic. Davis held a variety of occupations and traveled around the country, visiting the states of Alaska, Colorado, Florida, Illinois, Mississippi, Montana, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, Oregon, Washington, and Wyoming. Because of this, the FBI believes that he may be responsible for additional killings and assaults that took place across the country, and they are on the lookout for information that could link him to these crimes. What are your thoughts on this? Do you believe Davis's journey holds the key to solving further unsolved mysteries? Share your insights and theories in the comments below, as your perspective could help shed light on the true extent of Davis's dark legacy. On May 9, 1928, Mary Agnes Moroney, the first of Michael and Catherine Moroney's two daughters, was born in Chicago, Illinois. She was the eldest of Michael and Catherine Moroney's two daughters. The couple married and had their first child shortly before the Great Depression. Michael earned just $15 a week giving out handbills. Thus, the family was living in poverty. A family member of Catherine's reached out to a welfare agency and a paragraph on their plate was printed. Normally, the organization kept the address information private, but by mistake, a woman discovered the family's address, 5200 Wentworth Avenue. On May 14 of 1930, Mary Agnes's mother received a knock at her door to which she responded. She was approached by a woman who was said to have been sent there by a social service agency to deal with the Moroney's case. She was described as being well-dressed, perhaps 22 years old, with protruding teeth and a sophisticated voice. The woman introduced herself as Julia Otis. The woman requested if she could temporarily take Mary Agnes to California with her after learning about the family's many challenges from Catherine. She added that Mary Agnes would be plump as a butterball and unrecognizable. Catherine, however, said no. The woman then gave Catherine $2 and said she would be back. The very next day, the woman returned, only this time bringing baby clothing with her since Catherine was expecting a child. The woman also said that she had made arrangements for Michael, Catherine's husband, to get a better job, and asked if she could take Mary Agnes to a nearby store to pick up some clothes and shoes for her. Hesitantly, Catherine gave her permission. Afterward, she mentioned that Mary Agnes cried and refused to go with the woman, but she was still taken. Mary Agnes never came back, nor did Julia. Following their daughter's disappearance, Mary Agnes's parents contacted the police. The day after Julia Otis kidnapped Mary Agnes, the Moroney family got a letter from her. It said, "Please don't be alarmed. I have taken your little girl to California with me. I have hired a special nurse to take care of her. We'll be back in 2 months. By that time, you will be on your feet again, and you will be able to care for her. She didn't even cry a bit. She is outfitted like a princess. In the meantime, I'll help all I can do to get you on your feet. Don't worry about her or anything else. When you get this letter, we'll be on our way already. As ever, Julia Otis." This marked the final communication the woman posing as Julia Otis ever had with the Moroney family. Police searched the Chicago's railway terminals for signs of whether if Mary Agnes had been taken on a train. 2 weeks following the abduction, the Moroney family received a letter from a lady claiming to be Alice Henderson. In it, she claimed that Otis was her cousin, and that she was desperate for affection because her own husband had a baby and passed away over a year before. Henderson never wrote a second time, and investigators assert that this letter was written in the same handwriting as the one written by Otis. Sadly, neither Mary Agnes nor the woman who took her was able to be located by the authorities. Throughout the years, there had been many reports of sightings, but nothing that could be verified, and the case got cold. Articles regarding Mary Agnes would occasionally surface in the newspaper, especially in conjunction with other missing children. Eventually, Eden Wright, a reporter for the Chicago Daily News, became interested in her story after noticing something about the Moroney family in a picture. The newspaper said that the family members all looked alike. In the hopes that it might help locate Mary Agnes, the Chicago Daily News persuaded a California newspaper to publish a photograph of the Moroney family. The photograph was apparently noticed by a guy who said that one of Mary Agnes's sisters resembled his wife so much that it might have just been her in the picture. That woman was a 24-year-old housewife named Mary McClelland. She came forward in 1952 and said she believed she was Mary, the missing girl, after seeing pictures of Mary Agnes's siblings. After Mary Agnes went missing, 6 more siblings were born. Within a year of her abduction, Mary McClelland was adopted by Charles and Nora Beck. Upon examining and comparing her dental casts, Dr. Krause identified her as a member of the family. The doctor stated that Mary McClellan's blood test proved she was a Moroney, and that Catherine Moroney claimed to have recognized her, which was not actually true. On the 3rd of September 1952, the Chicago Daily News published the headline, "22 Years Search for Kidnapped Baby Ends," at the top of their front page. It stated that McClellan's teeth and other attributes helped identify her as Mary Agnes, and the newspaper then set up a meeting between McClellan and Catherine Moroney. "She's a great lady, a fantastic person," Catherine remarked. "Though I wish she were my daughter, that is not the case." An elderly physician named Dr. E.W. Merrithew is said to have delivered Mary McClellan on November 17, 1927, to an unnamed mother. Her mother likewise provided a photo of her daughter as a newborn from 1928, proving that she had been adopted 2 years prior to the kidnapping. Additionally, Mary Agnes went through a surgery for a ruptured navel, but Mary McClellan didn't have the scar that Mary Agnes had at the time of her abduction. Upon more DNA testing, it turned out that she was actually not Mary Agnes. In 2005, she passed away. After her demise, a conclusive DNA test was conducted in 2008, confirming that she was not Mary Agnes. In February 2023, it was made public that DNA testing had found a connection between Mary Agnes's living relatives and Jeanette Burchard's family, a Florida citizen who passed away in 2003 at the age of 75. After growing up as an only child, Jeanette Burchard married twice, had 3 kids, and worked as a nurse for over half a century. Jeanette's family was informed that she was born on April 14, 1928, that her original father had died 2 months following her birth, and that she spent the first 6 years of her childhood in Chicago. She was fostered by Jeanette Celerek Darris Anderson and her stepdad Frank Darris. Together they bring up Jeanette as a devoted Catholic. Jeanette first got married to Edward Jennings. Her second marriage to Earl Burchard came about decades later. Since then, her spouses have both passed away. Jeanette had 3 children, Terry Arnold, Barbara Joan Jennings, who died in 2006, and Edward Clifton Jennings, Jr., who died in 2004. Terry Arnold of Florida, Jeanette's only living daughter, had unexpectedly been involved in a historic Chicago's cold case. Terry claimed that a Cook County investigator called her in September 2022 with concerns regarding her late mother and a request to provide a DNA sample. Terry initially believed that it could not be true. She then made the decision to take the DNA test in an effort to disprove the investigating officer. On October 28, 2022, the results came out and they showed that all hadn't been as it seemed. Terry added that although Jeanette Burchard's mother's side of the family was Polish, her DNA test showed she was not. Her roots were primarily Irish. The Moroneys were also Irish. Terry said to the Chicago Sun-Times that since she has found out that her family is very different from what she was taught to believe, and she's now convinced that her mother was indeed Mary Agnes. Terry stated that her mom had a deep affection for her pets, opera and the Miami Dolphins. Apparently, her life started in Chicago. She was the world's best mom. We loved her so much. Lori Hart, a granddaughter of Jeanette Burchard, acknowledged the grief that the Moroney family must have felt over Mary Agnes's abduction. Yet, she still feels fortunate to have had Jeanette Burchard as her grandmother. Lori Hart remarked, "She was there for me any time I needed her." Don Moroney of downstate Flanagan, age 55, is Mary Agnes's nephew, and he too believes his aunt has finally been located. Thanks to the efforts of Cook County Sheriff's Office Detective Jose Rodriguez, Don, Terry, and Lori considered Jeanette Burchard to be Mary Agnes. In June 2022, he was given the duty of looking into Mary Agnes's case as a part of Sheriff Tom Dart's Missing Persons Project. Commercial DNA testing, according to Jose Rodriguez and Commander Jason Moran, showed that Terry Arnold shared genetics with Don Moroney's family members, indicating that they all were cousins. That gave the Moroney family, who had been at the center of the case for 93 years, closure, while also leaving Terry with the challenge of making sense of a new family history. Catherine, Mary Agnes's mother, suffered from severe depression after losing her daughter. At the age of 49, Catherine passed away in 1962. Back when Mary Agnes was abducted, her age was just 17 years old. Michael, Mary Agnes's father, died in 1957 at the age of 58. His last words were reported to be, "They never found my baby girl." According to Don Moroney, the family had always hoped that their aunt had a happy life and had been well cared for, and that was exactly what happened. Terry claimed to have never heard of the name Julia Otis before, and to be unaware of how her mother ended up being raised by Terry's grandmother. "All I know is she ended up with her, and I just feel bad that the parents never got to know what happened to their daughter." In any case, the Moroney family may know with all honesty that she was cared for. Terry said that she was positive. Her mother would have gotten in touch with the Moroneys if she had been alive to hear the news. She would have gone to the family and said, "I am here. I am fine." If you find this video compelling, show your support by giving it a thumbs up, subscribing to our channel, and ringing that notification bell. By doing so, you'll stay updated about the latest investigations and mysteries. Your support means the world to us as we continue to pursue the truth in the world of cold cases.